All right, is this working? Are we live? Hey, we are live. What is going on, guys? I've never done this before. Let me make sure that it tweeted something out. Cool. There we go. So, what is up, guys? I'm going to do a quick little video today. I kind of wanted to go over just objectively the winners and the losers of the NFL draft. I wanted to talk about the things that I think are like doing well, aren't doing well, like teams that did well, didn't do well, all of that stuff. Sorry, honestly didn't expect this to work. So yeah. Let's just do this thing then. Let me test this out. Doesn't seem like that's working. Oh, there it is. It is working. Hey, look at that. So, chat's working. Let's get the properties on this. Let's just... And then let's make the background color. Let me find the Gotham green. New York Jets green. Forget what hex color code that is. It is 125740, and that is Gotham green, and that didn't do anything. And then alrighty, and let's test this out again. See how this looks and all that. And okay, cool. I like this. I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all. There's the chat so people can see the chat. Alrighty. So let's talk Jets with Tego. So like I said, today I wanted to go over the draft. I wanted to talk about winners and losers of the NFL draft. And just my opinion on each of the 32 teams. And like I said, we're going to go about it that way. I'm going to try to go alphabetically so that we can just do it that way. So I wanted to start off with the Arizona Cardinals and their draft and what they were able to accomplish and how does this affect their team. So hey, thank you. Today, Isaac Benjamin, just saw your tweet 19 minutes ago. Really, really appreciate it. So yeah, like I was saying, I wanted to go over all of the drafts. What's up, Jets Mess? Thanks for stopping by, my guy. Just going over the draft and everybody today, and what they did, and just kind of want to talk about like everybody's picks. Going to go through the 32 teams. Want to hear what you have to say. If you got to say anything, appreciate you stopping by. Right now, we're starting on the Arizona Cardinals. So let me change scenes. Beautiful. There, that works. And then let me add a new source. And then I want to add the chat box. And we're going to put, we're going to put the chat box right there. Beautiful. So now everybody should be able to see. Chat should show up on screen nicely. And now we can talk about the picks and what everybody saw and all that stuff. So right now we're going to start on the Arizona Cardinals. And obviously we can't talk about the Arizona Cardinals without talking about the massive Hollywood Brown trade that they obviously made at the beginning of the draft and trading away a first-round pick to go get Hollywood Brown. Now, my questions or that I have about this kind of pick is like at 23, when they were originally going to pick, I feel like there were better wide receivers available than what like Hollywood Brown is. Isn't Hollywood Brown, wouldn't everyone just consider it like isn't Christian Watson on a cheaper 5-year deal, like that's starting fresh, someone that you can mold, kind of the same thing as Hollywood Brown, in my opinion? I just don't necessarily see the value of trading away your first round pick. Hey, what's good? Yep. Welcome to the stream, man. We're just going over the 32 teams, talking about Arizona and how, like, again, I don't really know how I feel about them trading for Hollywood Brown. It's not that I dislike Hollywood Brown. That's not it. It's just that I feel like Hollywood Brown is kind of the same player as some of the guys that were still available at 23. And they made that trade so early on in the process. So for me, I don't hate that pick, but I also don't love it because you had to give up more than just the first round pick to kind of get that to happen. I really like the Trey McBride pick, especially there at 55. That's right about the range where I thought that he might go. I really like that pick a lot. Cameron Thomas, the defensive end out of San Diego State, and Myjai Sanders out of Cincinnati. That's two great back-to-back edge picks, and it really helps fill a lot of holes that they need. And the big thing there is that it pushes J.J. Smith into a J.J. Watt into a rotational role, and so he doesn't have to be the every down edge that he once was in his prime, because unfortunately he's no longer in his prime. And then the last two picks that I want to talk about are, I really like Leticia Smith here in the 6th. He's a guy to pay attention to. He might turn into something on the interior of the line. He's pretty raw, and he does have things to work on, but he does have the possibility of becoming like a good starting guard at the next level. And the same thing goes with Marquis Hayes. Being able to get Marquis Hayes out of Oklahoma this far down into the draft really, really blew my mind that he was keeping on getting over and over and over here. Dude, I'm not saying that I dislike how the draft went, because that's not what I want to say, but it's like I like how the draft went, but my thing is like, was trading for Hollywood really the move? Because like Christian Watson is that dude. Like a lot of people liked him, and yeah, he was raw, but wasn't Hollywood raw too? Like, you're about to pay Kyler Murray like $35 million a year. Is not having Christian Watson under control for the next 5 years at a really low rate much better? No. Yeah, but I'm just like, I'm not saying that you disagree. I'm just saying, like, just to comment that, like, and oh my God, can you imagine if Dez came back? That would be great to me. Like, if Dez came back to play, like, that would be hilarious, because like you would have two of like the oldest wide receiver. Like, I would much rather you guys go for Julio, because Julio has been at least up until recently, been in the NFL. But like, I love Arizona. Arizona did a lot of really good things. Like I said, I love the McBride pick. I love these two picks. I love Leticia Smith and Marquis Hayes. Like, you can't make every pick great. Like, even the Jets in their situation, like, a lot of people don't like that last pick that they made, right? That 117 pick. But it's just like, it's hard to have a perfect draft. And Hollywood Brown is a good wide receiver. I like that pick. But that's Arizona. Let's go to Atlanta. Atlanta had a home run of a draft, in my opinion. They're a team that's really, really far away from competing. But walking away from the draft with Drake London, Arnold Ebiketie, an edge rusher that I think a lot of people are going to be surprised when he hits the scene, how good he is. Troy Anderson. I know a lot of people wanted Troy Anderson to go to the Jets. I wanted Troy Anderson to go to the Jets. Desmond Ritter in the 3rd round I think is great value, especially because his pro comp is Marcus Mariota. And so, like, when you look at Marcus Mariota, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not like a home run of a pick, but they went to a Super Bowl, that Falcons team, with Matt Ryan, who isn't a franchise carrying quarterback. And if Desmond Ritter can work out, in the next year, maybe win that job, that's not a bad pick. I'm not a fan of the D'Angelo Malone pick here in the 3rd round. I think this is a massive overdraft, but Tyler Algier in the 5th is a great running back. He's going to complement that running back room in Atlanta really, really well. I really like what Atlanta's doing. The thing I would like to see from Atlanta this year is a little bit more vision. I want to see them show me what they're trying to be moving forward, because that's what I feel like we're missing out of Atlanta right now, is a vision, this is what we're doing, this is how we're moving forward, this is what we want to do. So that's what I would like to see out of Atlanta moving forward, but I really do like this draft. And Drake London, for me, him and Garrett Wilson throughout this whole draft process were my 1A, 1B wide receivers, and they kept flip-flopping depending on the day and everything like that. But Atlanta, one hell of a draft. Really liked what they did. The only other team in this draft that possibly had an A-plus draft, in my opinion, alongside the Jets, are the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens came out and knocked it out of the park, man. Kyle Hamilton at 14 is great value. I was not that high on Kyle Hamilton as a player. I look at Kyle Hamilton at the next level like an in-the-box safety, a bigger, stronger, and slightly better Jamal Adams is the way that I look at him. I think that he's a liability in coverage, but getting him at 14 is great, especially when you got Marcus Williams, and he's the coverage safety. Like, they've got a super dynamic safety room in Baltimore now. Tyler Linderbaum at 25. Oh my gosh, that's great value. Ojabo in the 2nd. He had a 1st-round grade until he popped his Achilles. And the Chiefs did kill it, but there is one problem that I had with the Chiefs, and when I get there, I'll go to the Chiefs next for you, Jets, mess, because there's one problem with them and it's one of the reasons I won't give them an A, and I'll get there once I finish the Baltimore Ravens, because I know you want to talk about it. I do like what Kansas City did. They killed it, but there's one thing that I wish that they would have done a little bit differently, and we'll talk about that. Travis Jones in the 3rd. I thought he was a top of the 2nd-round pick guaranteed. Daniel Falele in the 4th. Another great pick. Not a fan of the Jalen Armour Davis pick. He's going to be a depth piece there, and I think that's a good pickup for them. But there were other players on the board here that I felt like could have had more day one impacts for the Ravens. But there's that. Charlie Kolar. I love Charlie Kolar. Jordan Stout, the punter out of Penn State, is a great punter. Isaiah Likely was in the conversation to be in the 2nd round at one point, and you get to pick him up all the way in the 4th. And then Tyler Batty, I really like this running back here in the 6th. He's going to be a guy to watch out. He doesn't have a lot of what I like skills or tools or anything in the running back room, but he's just like a downhill runner that, like, if you can hand him the ball, he can bust through the tackles. I like Tyler Batty a lot. Now let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs for Jets mess here. Where's KC? Kansas City. Okay, let me talk about Kansas City just a little bit. And I agree with you. Kansas City absolutely did kill it. Lots of picks that I like, and I'm going to talk about those picks. First off, Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis here. Excellent picks in the 1st round. What's up, Dark? Thanks for stopping by. What's up, man? I love the Trent McDuffie pick, and I love the George Karlaftis pick. George Karlaftis is going to wreak havoc in Kansas City, and people aren't going to be ready because I think they were down on George Karlaftis for no reason. I love this kid. He's going to be great. But that being said, Sky Moore, to me, is... I don't like this pick Not because I think that there were better picks, because I don't think that there were better picks here. But I look at it and I go, what is Sky Moore? My thing is like at 21, were there not better wide receivers on the board? Like at 21, I just wish that they would have traded up for another wide receiver. I wish that they would have helped Patrick Mahomes a little bit more. Like Christian Watson was there. Christian Watson in that team, to me, is excellent value. This is a crazy pick. I have no idea what's happening there. But like George Pickens and Alec Pierce are other wide receivers that I feel like in that system would work a lot more. And I don't have a problem with Sky Moore, but he seems like a very one-dimensional player at the next level. And because he's short, and I know he's strong and he can play up there and catch the ball really high, I have concerns. Let me just say that. This pick was my favorite pick that they made, Leo Chenal in the third. This is a great pick from them. Great pick from them. Especially because they plan on playing him with his hand in the dirt as like an edge rusher. So it's going to be George Karlaftis and Leo Chenal coming off the edges. And wow, that's just great value out of them to be able to convert a linebacker into an outside linebacker like that. And that's what Leo Chenal specializes in, right? He's a blitzing linebacker. And him and George Karlaftis are going to wreak havoc. Darien Canard, again, I wasn't a fan of Darien Canard coming out of the draft, but for them, where I think they're going to play him is inside. I think that's great value, especially because a lot of people had him going as high as the second round on certain mocks. And so getting a Darien Canard here in the fifth is awesome, especially if you're not going to ask him to start right away. And I like that a lot. And then some of these other picks were just like they're 7th round picks, right? What are you going to say about 7th round picks? If they pan out, they pan out. If they don't pan out, they don't pan out. Right? So let's go to Buffalo. Okay, let me start the Buffalo conversation by saying this. I like the aggressiveness in Buffalo trading up to get Kaiir Elam, but my question was, like, where you were originally picking, who were you scared was going to come up for a corner? Especially when, like, there were other corners still on the board, right? Like, even if, I love Kaiir Elam out of Florida. And yeah, Canard went really late, and, like, for no reason. It made no sense for him to fall all the way to the 5th. He's a good prospect. I just don't like him for a tackle. I didn't like him for the Jets because I wanted the Jets to draft a tackle prospect. That's why I really liked Max Mitchell. But, I don't know. Canard falling to the 5th is crazy to me. It was kind of like a Jermaine Johnson-esque fall for me, where I was like, what? Why? Doesn't make sense why he keeps falling all the way to the 5th. But going back to Buffalo, I like coming up for Kaiir. Kair's got all of the raw tools to do it. He's just got to get better with those hands because he's a little handsy at the top of routes, and he gets called on that a lot. But he's got all the skills to be a coverage corner and to play on the opposite side of their starting corner there in Buffalo. And James Cook in the second, I really like. I think this is a really high pick for James Cook, taking him in the second round. But, like, he's a good pick because they don't have any running back help at all. And especially a pass-catching running back like James Cook in that system is going to do great things. And I think they win the draft, right? Because they took Punt God, right? In the 6th round, they took Matt Araiza. You can't not like Matt Araiza. Just can't not like him. And then Khalil Shakir in the 5th, I think, is great value. I had him with a late 2nd, early 3rd round grade. Getting him here in the 5th, especially adding into that system and what they do, I really, really like that. And then they got a lot of value picks, and you just hope that their general manager out there can scout well, and I think that they can. So really good draft out of them overall. Would probably give it like a C+, a B- in that area because they addressed positions of need in Kaiir Elam, James Cook, Terrell Bernard, Khalil Shakir, Matt Araiza. But it's just like there aren't a lot of very picks that scream out at me as like, oh my gosh, look at this guy, But not every pick can. So moving on, let's go to the Carolina Panthers. And I think the Carolina Panthers, with what they were trying to do and what they were able to get done, I really, really like their draft. There's only one pick in their draft that I'm not a fan of, and that's the Amari Barno. I think this is an okay edge, but it's a 6th round pick, And Cade Mays in the 6th out of Tennessee, what a pick, man. That's such a great value. Icky in the top. He was my number 1 ranked player on my board. Icky Ekwonu. Matt Corral in the 3rd. Trading up for Matt Corral was such a smart idea. Brandon Smith out of Penn State is going to be a bruiser in that linebacking room and help in that run game and that run stop and really just be in the box. I really like that out of him. You just like what you see here. Just honestly, out of Carolina. You hope that it works out, and I still have faith in Sam, but Matt Corral's great value here in the 3rd, and I think he's pro-ready. I think he can start, and he can even sit for a year. So, next, the Chicago Bears. And with this many picks, how does Chicago, not affect, Kyler Gordon, great pick. Jaquan Brisker, great pick. Velus Jones, not a fan of Velus Jones personally, but again, I get it. You need a wide receiver, but my thing is how is this pick not the wide receiver? Wasn't Alec Pierce and George Pickens and all those guys available? Kyler Gordon would have been available down here. You could have found a safety later. Excuse me. Tired. It's just weird, man. And that's just really it. They had a lot of people that they took and they got a lot of picks, and they're a team that needs a lot of help. But how much value are you going to get out of 6th and 7th round guys? You have 6 guys taken in the bottom 2 rounds. How many of those guys are going to affect your game outside of the punter? Because the punter can make the team, right? He's a punter. He should make the team. But I think Kyler Gordon can start. I think he's incredibly underrated, and taking him in at 39 is great value. I had it with a low 1st, early 2nd round grade. I really liked Kyler Gordon. I wanted Jaquan Brisker to be a Jet until we traded up and did all those things. That's what it. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Velus Jones Jr., but he just seems like a speed demon. And if Justin Fields has the arm that you think that he has, and he can rip it like that, it's a good value. I'm not mad at it. The Bengals. The Bengals did the best that they could with the place that they were picking. The Bengals did one thing wrong last year, and that was they were too good too early. It's a very similar thing that I say that happened with the Maple Leafs, which is the Maple Leafs made the playoffs a year too early. And so they lost out on the ability to have another really high draft pick because of that. And so them picking in the late 31s, 32s, and in that area, really late in every single round of the draft, really made them lose out on a lot of the higher end prospects. They needed offensive line help, but none of the offensive line guys were going to be available at 31. So they pivot and they take a great safety slot corner player in Daxton Hill. I love Daxton Hill. And then they get Cam Taylor-Britt. He's a good enough corner in the bottom of the 2nd out of Nebraska. He's a guy that I look at playing under Eli Apple. Is it Eli Apple? Whoever their quarter is, he plays under him for a year, and then he takes his job. Next year, Zachary Carter, Cordero Volson, and Tyson Anderson are all really good depth pieces, and they're going to compete at camp, and they're not really going to win the jobs, I don't think, but they're good rotational pieces. If the offensive line goes down, Volson can come in, step in for a game or two, and it won't be atrocious. So, again, the Bengals had a lot of They had an excellent year. They went from being 4-12 to the Super Bowl. I'm hoping the Jets can go from 4-13 to the Super Bowl. But the problem with being the team that has the holes that you have means that you're not going to be able to get the players that are going to help fill those holes. and you might either need to reach or just take best player available and find things in free agency, but that's a good problem to have for Cincinnati. Cleveland. How can we talk about the Cleveland draft without talking about the Deshaun Watson trade? There's a reason they're not going to be picking very, very high, very, very often, but there are a couple of really good players that I like that they took here in the draft that's going to help a team that doesn't have very many needs. Number one, I think they addressed their defensive line need. They need to help Myles Garrett out there, and taking Alex Wright out of UAB and taking Perion Winfrey out of Oklahoma. Great picks. Isaiah Thomas is a great developmental edge late to get him in the 7th round. He's one of those, you take a flyer on him, he might turn into something, but he also might not. But when you have Myles Garrett in that room, there's a higher likelihood that he'll turn out because he's going to be working with one of the best in the game. And I really like that. David Bell in the 3rd round is great value. David Bell is an excellent wide receiver, and I think that in the next level, he's going to be a really good he's going to become a really good rotational piece in that wide receiver room. I still think they need wide receiver help. I think Mike Woods is more of a special teamer at the next level than a wide receiver. You might see him in a gadget play or two, but that's what I just think. That's what I think of him. And Jerome Ford is a great running back. Love the value here in the 5th. And Cade York, kicker. He's the best kicker in this class. We might see Cleveland acquire their own McPherson. This guy's got ice in his veins, and he does not miss out of LSU. I really, really liked Cade York, and he was one of the guys that I thought maybe the Jets could take in the 5th. With one of their picks, because I didn't think a team would pull the trigger on Cade York, because I love this kid. Whew, tired, and we're only in the D's. Dallas had a super meh draft. They addressed the positions of needs. They got good players. Damone Clark here in the 5th round. I really like that pick a lot. But Tyler Smith, great tackle. Love him out of Tulsa. Love what he's going to bring to Dallas. He's going to start right away in Dallas, in my opinion. But he's an okay pick. He's not anything crazy good or crazy bad. Sam Williams, edge out of Mississippi. I feel like this was a reach a little bit here. I think there were other edges that I liked more. What's up, Nick? We're just talking my grades on these on this draft class. Trying to take some of your advice and go live a little bit and see how that works. Jake Ferguson, I really like this tight end out of Wisconsin. I do, and I think him playing under Dalton Schultz, is a great thing for him, a great learning experience for him, because he can come in and he has very Dalton Schultz-esque kind of traits, and the best way to learn how to play at the next level is to play with a guy that you kind of get comped to in a lower scheme. And so Jake Ferguson is a nice addition there, and I really think it gives the Cowboys the ability to run more 2 tight end sets and run a lot more 12 personnel and 22 personnel, because I think they really need to focus on their run game this year. They've got 2 excellent running backs, and with the way that this running back market is, you paid Ezekiel Elliott a bag. Run him into the ground, man. Just run him into the ground. He should be having 20, 25 carries a game, and your other guy should be having 10, 15 carries a game. You really should be running the ball 40 times a game. Because as much as I like Dak Prescott, he's not a special quarterback. He's not anything that's going to blow you out of this world. He's very Kirk Cousin-esque. He's a game manager, and the more you can take out of Dak Prescott's hands and into the rest of his team, the better you're going to get. And your wide receiver room isn't as good anymore because you lost Amari Cooper because of your contract situation. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by, man. I really, really do appreciate it. Have a good night. And so, yeah, that would be my thing with the Cowboys. is you have your playmakers, try to get the ball into your playmakers' hands. Jalen Tolbert is not going to replace Amari Cooper and what Amari Cooper does, so I wouldn't even try. So that's my take there on the Cowboys. Let's go the Broncos. The Broncos did really well. I really like their top 4 picks in this draft. I like Nick Bonito a lot. I like Greg Dulcich a lot. Damari Mathis a lot. Uzurike a lot. And you add the fact that they added Russell Wilson. So this is a great draft because, again, they didn't have very many needs. And the needs that they did have, they addressed. They lost Noah Fant. They went and got Noah Fant. They needed a cornerback. They went and got Damari Mathis. And Damari Mathis can sit and learn in that defense. He's going to start, but he's not going to ask to do a lot because the safeties are going to help there. And they got depth on the offensive line, so they're trying to do the opposite of what happened in Seattle. So it's a good stop over there. Detroit Lions, another great draft. Top half of this, like outside of the bottom 2 picks, because these are 6th round picks, like what are you going to do about 6th round picks? Because I don't know much about James Houston or Chase Lucas, but let's go just top down. Aiden Hutchinson was my number 1 edge in this class. My number 2 edge was Jermaine Johnson. Jamison Williams was my number 3 wide receiver. They got him as the 4th wide receiver off the board because New Orleans took Olave. Joshua Pascal, great 2nd round edge, and they got him in the 2nd round. Great value. Love him a lot. How many Jets fans had Kirby Joseph drafted to the Jets when they took running backs in the 2nd? I loved Kirby Joseph out of Illinois. James Mitchell is a crazy good athlete. He's a raw, and I mean super raw tight end prospect. But when you're going into that system up there in Detroit with Matt Campbell, who was a tight end, you're going to learn. And then Malcolm Rodriguez is a great depth linebacker to put in there in a rotational role. You don't want him starting, but if he can come in 10 to 15 snaps a game, and really just, if you're not asking him to play 30, 40, 50, 60 snaps a game, you're winning, 60. Do defenses play 60? Well, I guess Detroit might because their team's not that great, but they addressed a lot of good needs here. The one thing that I would have said here is I would have liked them to, at some point with how these quarterbacks were falling, maybe use these 6th round and 7th round picks to come back up into the 3rd to try to get Malik Willis or something like that. But if they don't feel comfortable with it and they want to go into next year's quarterback class, who handedly is going to be great, that's something that I can't complain about. Dark, thank you for stopping by, my guy. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by for the live stream. I know I decided to do one a little bit late, but I didn't want to start one while Jeremy was doing his stream, and just wanted to get this video out there and honestly just test out this live thing and see how it goes. See how many people I can get to stop by. But you have a good night, Soldier. You have a good one. Green Bay. Man, what a weird draft for Green Bay. Because they got a lot, and I mean a lot of really good players. And so let's start top to bottom. Them not taking a wide receiver in the 1st round, mind-boggling. Everybody traded up for a wide receiver, but not Green Bay. They decided that they're not going to help their franchise quarterback. Crazy to me. But Quay Walker is a great linebacker. I didn't necessarily have a 1st round grade on him. I only had a 1st round grade on 2 linebackers, and that was his teammate Nakobe Dean and Devin Lloyd out of Utah. Devontae Wyatt is a great interior defensive lineman. Again, I didn't have a 1st round grade on Devontae Wyatt just because he's a 2 down back. He's not a what I like to consider you don't want him on your pass sets, but he's a big enough boy where he just sits there in the middle and he eats up run stuffing, and sometimes that's what you need. So again, I'm not mad at that pick. Christian Watson is who I thought they would have taken in the 1st round if they took a wide receiver in the 1st round anyway. So they do get a good value here by getting him in the 2nd. But man, my guys, they're he's so raw. You need to get him and Aaron Rodgers in a room throwing balls as quickly as possible, because they're going to need to get their timing situated. Christian Watson's going to need to get his timing situated. He does have these concentration drops in his game that Aaron Rodgers is going to absolutely hate if Christian Watson brings that to the next level, because he does have like a little bit of a drop issue. He does like to let go of the ball a little bit much. Sean Rhyan is a great pickup. He can play anywhere on that offensive line. He can play on the outside and he can play on the inside. I project him as more of a guard at the next level, but we need to see what that offensive line development coach can do out there. Great value pickup here. Another great offensive line value pickup is Zach Tom. I love Zach Tom. I think, again, he's a guard at the next level, but I think he's going to be a great guard. He was someone I wanted the Jets to take as well, to be an interior depth piece. I was looking at Zach Tom as GVR's replacement, if I'm being honest. Kingsley and Egbare being taken in the 5th is absolutely blasphemous. I had a 2nd-round grade on Kingsley. He is great. And him being taken here in the 5th is crazy. And then of these 7th-round picks, Rasheed Walker is the only one I'm going to talk about, because Rasheed Walker is a great developmental tackle. And I think he can play tackle at the next level. I think he's big enough and he's long enough to do it. I think he needs to develop, and we just need to see if Green Bay can do that. Try to speed through these a little bit faster so that we can finish up. Oh, my God. Houston Texans. I think the Houston Texans had a pretty good draft. There are 3 picks here that I really, really like out of Houston. It's Jalen Petrie in the 2nd round. He reminds me a lot of Honey Badger, man. I think that if he can develop his skills and he can do all of those things, I think he can really, really become a good safety in this league. John Mechie pick is kind of a whatever pick, but the Christian Harris pick, the Damone Pierce, and the Thomas Booker picks for me are back-to-back great picks out of Nick Caserio in Houston. The only complaint I have about their draft class is I think taking Derek Stingley at 3 is a little bit rich for my blood. And the only reason I say that is I'm still worried about that injury. I think Derek Stingley only showed 1 good year of production his freshman year, and I think that he can play up to that. But the injuries scare me, and taking it, this screams Jeff Okudah to me, and I don't want to say that because my friend is a Houston Texans fan, and I want DSJ to work out because I like DSJ. He's a great guy. I heard that he's like a really good, down-to-earth just dude, and it's just interesting to look at and be like, I don't know, man. Kenyon Green is a great value pick. He's going to end up probably being the best interior lineman taken in this draft. That's only assuming Tyler Linderbaum struggles with his size at the next level, and maybe he might get a little bullied by some bigger interior like nose tackles and things that line up over him. But I think Kenyon Green has the potential to be one of the better players in this draft. But I question it and I go, wouldn't it make more sense if you went at 3 Icky? Because I think Icky has the potential, if he plays at guard, to be Quentin Nelson. And I think he can play tackle at the next level. And I think if he goes to Houston, I think Icky could end up being better than Laramie Tunsil. That's just my take. So I think Icky goes into that team and becomes their best tackle available. And then I look at it and go, yes, you took a big swing on DSJ, but at 15, even with the trade back, McDuffie, Elam, Andrew Booth, there were a lot of good corners available. And I think the differentiation and the gap between Ike Ekwonu and Kenyon Green is much larger than Derek Stingley and Andrew Booth Jr. or McDuffie or some of those guys. So that's the only question that I have. That's really it. Thomas Booker, guys, if you don't know about Thomas Booker, go to Brett Coleman. He did a 32-minute interview with Thomas Booker out of Stanford, and I fell in love with that kid after watching that interview, man. That guy is crazy good. I love this kid. Ultimately, good draft by Houston. Indianapolis, great draft without having a first-round pick. Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, Bernard Raymond, Nick Cross, Eric Johnson, Andrew Ogletree. These are great picks all the way up to the 6th round. I have no idea who Curtis Brooks is or Rodney Thomas is, so I'm not going to try to talk about those guys. But Alec Pierce is great value at the wide receiver position. He's going to provide speed and length and athleticism and just size to their wide receiver room. Jelani Woods. Jets fans have been pounding on the table for Jelani Woods. Dom C loves Jelani Woods. I love Jelani Woods. Bernard Raymond, I had a first-round grade on that kid. All he needs to do is put on 15 or 20 pounds at the next level, and I think he can be a starting left tackle. And that guy's got grit. That man was ready to go to war. He went to go do his mandatory 2 years of service in Austria, so you love to see that. Nick Cross out of Maryland has a lot of really, really high upside, and Andrew Ogletree is one of those flyer picks on a tight end that might turn into something, but more than likely probably won't. Let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This draft is one of those drafts where it's not a bad draft. It's just this is the way you decided to build your team. Guys, I want you to look at this draft and tell me what's missing. I'll tell you what's missing if you haven't noticed it. It's help. It's help for your franchise quarterback that you took number 1 overall last year. Trayvon Walker is a great pick. I like Trayvon Walker. He was my 5th ranked edge. No, he was my 4th ranked edge. 4th? 4th ranked edge. I don't remember. He was in my top 5 of edges. He wasn't number 1. I had Aiden Hutchinson, Jermaine Johnson, and George Karlaftis all ranked above Trayvon Walker. And you took him number 1 overall. And that's fine. You can take a developmental edge, especially when you have Josh Allen on your team. I get that. But then you trade back into the 1st round and get Devin Lloyd. And I know that you need to replace Myles Jack. I get it. But then in the 3rd round, you get Chad Muma, again, another linebacker. And then you take Luke Fortner in the top of the 3rd round, a massive reach here in this position, in my opinion. And then you get a whatever. I don't even know who Snoop Connor was. I thought I scouted all of the running backs because I wanted the Jets to take a running back in the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th round. I have no idea who Snoop Connor is. And then you go back-to-back corners in the 6th and the 7th. Where are you helping your franchise quarterback? There's nothing here that's going to help him here. I doubt Luke Fortner wins the job out of camp, and if he does, I think he's going to be a liability. Like, it's not that this is a bad draft, because great pick, but like, what are these picks? Where are you helping your quarterback? I know you just signed Christian Kirk to big money, but do you really expect Christian Kirk to be a number 1 wide receiver? Is that what you're expecting out of the guy? I just don't know what Jacksonville did here. You'd think Doug Peterson would do better with them. We're going to skip Kansas City because we already did Kansas City. And Las Vegas, to me, had a really good draft. But I had a question about Las Vegas, and I'm going to ask it here, and I'm going to pose it here to the chat, and I'm just going to say it. They traded away their 1st round pick and their 2nd round pick for Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams' trade helped them keep Derek Carr and re-sign Derek Carr long-term. But having this small of a draft, not picking until the 3rd round, I know they get right back to it next year, but Devontae Adams isn't getting any younger. Derek Carr isn't getting any younger. Dylan Parham's a great pick here in the 3rd. I really like this pick a lot. Thayer Munford is a great pick in the 7th. I thought he was going to go much higher than that. Matthew Butler, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee, is a guy that I was eyeing for the Jets for a long time. Neil Farrell is another player that I was eyeing for the Jets. And Zamir White's a great running back to take in the 4th. It's not that these picks are bad picks. My thing is for a team that has more needs than just these, let's say, 6 picks that they took from the 3rd to the 7th because they didn't have a 6th round pick. Is this going to be enough to make their team competitive? I don't know. And I worry about it. But we'll have to see. New head coach out there, new general manager. It's a much better draft than we normally expect out of Las Vegas. At least they didn't do a New England and take a guy with a 3rd round grade in the 1st round. Let's talk Chargers because the Chargers killed it, man. Chargers absolutely killed it. Zion Johnson in the first round is great value. You got to protect Herbert. That's a guy. You know what I mean? That's a guy who's going to start. He can play both guards. He can play in the center spot. And after they drafted him, they came out and said, hey, we plan on starting him at right guard. That offensive line is going to be silly, man. They're going to be really, really, really good out there. JT Woods out of Baylor. I liked him. With them not having a second-round pick, taking a safety here in the third makes a lot of sense. And JT Woods is a guy who does need work, obviously, in his game. Every single one of these players do. But I love the value that you get here. Jamari Salyer's value in the 6th round is out of this world. I had a 4th-round grade on the guy. To get him in the 6th, I love it. And he's a developmental tackle, so you can really partner him there, and he can become a swing tackle possibly in case like a Rashawn Slater, or I forget who the other guy on their line is, goes down. He can play there. And then Ogbonia is an interesting pick just because, like, they definitely needed the defensive tackle help. I'm just surprised that they waited so long to get the defensive tackle help. I thought that would have come like in the 3rd round with like a Perry and Winfrey or something like that. But at least they did address it, and I think that this was their biggest position of need was defensive tackle. But I love this Zion Johnson and JT Woods and Isaiah Spiller pick. Great picks for them. Let's talk the Rams. The Rams had a Rams kind of draft. Like, I don't know any of these players. Maybe Darien Kendrick, I know out of Georgia. He's interesting. Kieran Williams, I know out of him. He's an interesting pick for them. But, like, you have to assume that they did more research than me on a lot of these guys, these later guys. And Logan Bruss out of Wisconsin, I've heard good things. I've heard Dom C say good things about him. I know nothing about this guy, if I'm being honest. And Jacoby Durant, same thing. I know nothing about this guy to be able to say anything about him. But Kieran Williams, I like the Kieran Williams pick. You just got to assume Los Angeles, they did just win the Super Bowl, so you got to assume they know what they're doing, right? Miami Dolphins. This is an atrocious draft. Not because of any of these picks. I don't know much about this Texas Tech wide receiver. I don't know much about this outside linebacker or this backup quarterback out of Kansas State. But and Channing Tindall, great pick. I love Channing Tindall. Love this guy. He might ultimately end up being the best linebacker out of that Georgia trio that got drafted this year. But my question comes back to, you were a 9-8 team with Tua. Your offensive line was horrible. You just traded away your entire draft to go get Tyreek Hill, a weapon that needs time to develop, and you don't get an offensive lineman. Your offensive line is still atrocious. Again, was trading for Tyreek Hill worth having such an anemic draft? You walked away with 4 picks, and one of those guys is going to start. One of them, and that's Channing Tindall. Is that worth it? Is your offseason of Tyreek Hill and Channing Tindall worth it? I don't know. We'll have to see, especially because you have like a whole new coaching staff and a whole new system. But, man, I got questions about it. I did not like what Miami did in this offseason. I know that the Jets were in on it, but the Jets didn't have to give up 6 picks. Even if we traded for Tyreek Hill, we would have had 2 first-round picks. Miami here needed the offensive line help. They needed the defensive line help. They needed they just needed help on that team. And unfortunately, they weren't able to get it because of the fact that they traded for him. Minnesota, great draft. You know what? I think I'm going to do Minnesota to Washington tomorrow. I need to go use the bathroom, and I don't want to keep the stream going and doing all that stuff while I'm using the bathroom. Guys, thank you for stopping by the stream. I really do appreciate everyone who stopped here. We got 5 likes on the video. That's awesome. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. We're at 42 subscribers. We're 8 away from 50 subs. I'm really excited about this. I really hope that we can get there. Guys, thanks for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I really appreciate everyone who's watching this afterwards. We're going to go through Minnesota to the Commanders tomorrow, but I got to go use the bathroom. I'm going to go to bed. Thanks for stopping by, guys. I really appreciate it. And last but not least,